Hello, and welcome dear fellow tankers. We passed brutal invasion. So here is my list to make sure you will pass the invasion waves. What if I told you some tanks were literally built for invasion brutal mode? Not just good tanks, but absolute monsters capable of surviving endless waves, brutal bosses,
and complete
chaos.
It's going to get
Today
hot,
we are
guys.
looking at the best tanks for brutal mode in World of Tanks. And trust me, some of these tanks completely dominate the battlefield. We've got heavy armored beasts, fast support hunters, insane damage dealers, and tanks so broken in brutal mode, they almost feel unfair. So grab your repair kits, load the premium shells, because today we survive the apocalypse. Brutal mode changes everything in World of Tanks. This isn't normal random battles anymore. You are constantly pressured by huge enemy waves, massive alpha damage, fast flank attacks, and tanks with ridiculous HP pools. So the tanks that work best here need very specific strengths. You need armor, you need survivability, you need reliable penetration, and most importantly, you need consistency. One missed shot, one weak reload, one bad position, and the entire team collapses. That's why these tanks stand above the rest. The first monster on this list is the SDPWZ-66 Strong. And honestly, this thing feels like a mini-boss itself.
Spotted.
With 810 alpha damage. This tank absolutely destroys invasion enemies. You don't just shoot enemies, you erase them. The penetration is strong. The reload is surprisingly manageable for such brutal damage. And the mobility is way better than most players expect. This is important in brutal mode because repositioning saves lives. But the real strength, the fear factor. When enemies know a bomb is aiming,
Allied vehicle
they
destroyed.
stop pushing.
4 left.
One shot can completely change a front line. And in brutal mode, that matters more than anything. The SCP-58 Killen is another incredible brutal mode pick. This tank combines stealth, mobility, and devastating alpha damage. 700 damage per shot is insane in support
destroyed.
positions.
Regain
But
your
what
strength.
makes this tank special
It's not over yet.
is how flexible it feels. You can relocate, you can ambush, you can support heavies, and you can punish enemies trying to rush your team. Invasion enemies love overextending, and the Killen punishes every mistake, especially when
Guys,
played
I have a new
behind
wave for
stronger
you.
armored
Get ready.
teammates. This tank becomes an execution machine. Now, let's talk about one of the kings of sustained damage. Turtle Empire. This thing is basically a bunker with a gun attached. Over 3,000 DPM, strong
Attention.
armor,
Get ready
excellent
for an
gun
attack from the
handling,
flank.
and brutal consistency. In brutal mode, consistency is everything. You don't always need giant alpha. Sometimes you need a machine that never stops firing. And that is exactly what the turtle does. It keeps enemies permanently under pressure. You track them, you farm them, you melt them. And because the reload is so fast, you can constantly punish weak points. The turtle becomes a frontline anchor, a tank your team can hide behind. The Type 5 Kari remains one of the strongest support destroyers in the game, and in brutal mode, it becomes terrifying. Over 500 alpha damage, excellent penetration, very accurate gun handling, and surprisingly good concealment. This tank excels at long-range punishment. You let the heavies absorb the pressure, and the Kari deletes enemies from distance. It also has solid mobility for a tank destroyer. So repositioning between waves feels smooth. But the biggest advantage The accuracy. In brutal mode, missing shots is deadly, and the Kari almost never disappoints. This tank rewards patient players and punishes aggressive enemies hard. Now this tank is pure chaos. The SHP-TKT VP-100 is one of the most dangerous glass cannons in brutal mode. Insane DPM, crazy accuracy, excellent speed,
The wave is repelled.
and
Great
camouflage that
job.
makes it feel
Patch up your
invisible.
holes and collect Miriam.
This tank has one weakness. If enemies spot you, you are in serious trouble. So positioning becomes everything. You cannot frontline. You cannot overpeak. You need to strike and disappear. But when played correctly,
There's a big
this
breach
tank
on the radar.
absolutely farms
They're taking
damage.
us seriously
It
now.
can carry entire invasion waves, and the DPM is so high that enemies barely get time to react. Now, let's move into the heavy beasts. The VK-100.0-1P, the VK-168.0-1
The
Malachite,
enemy is flanking us.
and these
Get ready.
65s Zwilling. These tanks are absolute walls. In brutal mode, armor matters a lot, and these tanks can absorb ridiculous punishment. The VK-100 and Mauerbrecher are basically moving fortresses. They push corridors, they block enemy advances, and they protect the team. Sure, they are slow, but in brutal mode, sometimes survival is more important than speed. The Mauerbrecher especially becomes a distraction machine. Enemies waste so much firepower trying to penetrate. And meanwhile, your teammates farm free damage. Then we have the E65 Zwilling. This tank feels different. Double gun pressure, strong armor, and terrifying burst punch. In close range fights, this thing becomes a nightmare. When invasion enemies rush in, the Zwilling absolutely shreds them. The T-44-100 and the Obsidian are fantastic support tanks. They bring flexibility, speed, and control. The T-44-100 is incredibly reliable. Good mobility,
Great.
strong gun
You destroyed them
handling,
all.
and enough
Take a
armor
break
to
before the
survive
new
risky
wave.
pushes. In brutal mode, that balance is extremely valuable. Then there's the Obsidian, one of the most underrated tanks for invasion gameplay. It reloads quickly, moves well, and supports teammates perfectly.
Attention.
These tanks
New
are
enemy
ideal
wave.
for flanking
They're playing their
enemies,
trump cards.
finishing low HP targets, and helping overloaded teammates survive. They are not frontline tanks, but they are battlefield controllers.
Don't leave
The
battle. You'll get
KPZ-3
repaired and head
GST
back
turn
in.
is one of the most unique picks. Excellent alpha damage, great gun depression, and very dangerous peek-and-shoot gameplay. This tank shines when terrain is involved. You use hills, ridgelines, and corners to expose almost nothing. And then, boom, massive damage. In brutal mode, smart positioning like this can completely change battles. The term rewards tactical players and punishes reckless enemies hard. And now we arrive at one of the fastest support predators, the Kampfpanzer 07RH. This thing is absolutely insane when used correctly. Over 70 kilometers per hour. Fantastic DPM, incredible accuracy, and lightning-fast gun handling. This tank doesn't survive with armor. It survives with speed. In brutal mode, that mobility becomes priceless. You can relocate between invasion waves, support collapsing flanks, and farm distracted enemies before they even react. The 07RH feels like a battlefield assassin. Always moving, always shooting, and always causing chaos. Then we have one of the strongest armored grinders in the game, the TS5. This tank is pure pressure, massive frontal armor, excellent DPM, and brutal close-range fighting power. In brutal mode, the TS5 becomes a frontline nightmare. You park this thing in a corridor, and enemies simply cannot push through. It constantly fires, constantly tracks enemies, and slowly crushes invasion waves. Yes, it's slow, but it doesn't need speed. It controls territory with raw firepower, and that makes it terrifying.
One more wave. This is the last one. It's gonna be heated.
Now this tank surprises a lot of players. The British at 15. Some people underestimate it. Until they see the reload, this thing fires non-stop. The DPM is absolutely ridiculous. In brutal mode, that sustained fire becomes devastating. You don't give enemies time to recover. You permanently damage tracks. You stop pushes, and you slowly melt entire enemy groups. The armor also works surprisingly well against invasion tanks. And because the gun is so accurate, you can constantly target weak spots. The AT-15 becomes a defensive machine gun bunker. And finally, one of the craziest tanks for pure survival. The OHO. This tank is huge. It's slow, it's loud, and it attracts every enemy shell. But that's exactly why it works. The armor is enormous. The HP pool is massive. And invasion enemies waste so much time trying to destroy it. This gives your team room to breathe, room to reposition, and room to survive. The OHO may not be the highest damage dealer, but as a distraction tank, it becomes an absolute fortress. So after looking at all these tanks, one thing becomes clear. Brutal mode is not about one perfect vehicle. It's about combining strengths. You need armored monsters like the OHO, TS5, and Mauerbrecher. You need DPM beasts like the Turtle and AT-15. You need stealth assassins like the Kari and SHPTK. And you need fast battlefield controllers like the Kampfpanzer 07RH and T-44-100. That combination is what survives the apocalypse. So now I want to hear your invasion setup. What is your ultimate brutal mode tank? So, what is the perfect brutal mode setup? You need balance. 1 or 2 armored frontline heavies. 1 sustained DPM machine. 1 stealth sniper. And flexible support mediums. That combination creates the strongest invasion defense possible. The heavies absorb pressure. The destroyers delete priority targets. And the mediums control the battlefield. That's how you survive brutal mode. Not with random tanks, but with teamwork. So now I want to know, what is your favorite tank for Invasion Brutal Mode? Did your favorite make the list? Or do you have a hidden monster nobody talks about? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the HELLFISH Army for more brutal World of Tanks content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.
We've lost a vehicle. 3 left. Time! We need...